This is my video about how Comet Stellar Pup is a broken Magic card. Comet Stellar Pup is a Magic card that most players who play Magic are probably not aware of. It's a 4-mana Boros Planeswalker with some very interesting abilities. The only way to use Comet's Planeswalker abilities is to roll a 6-sided die on its 0 ability and activate one of them at random. Comet has this strange ability because it's from the joke set Infinity with cards such as Space Ballerin, another 4-mana Planeswalker with a bunch of weird abilities talking about zones and things. It's not really meant to be taken seriously as it is a joke set. But that is not why I am interested in Comet Stellar Pup. I'm much more interested in the fact that it is one of the most powerful cards currently playable in the MTG Arena version of Vintage Cube, one of the strongest formats of all time. To put it in perspective, Black Lotus, one of the strongest cards ever printed into Magic the Gathering that gives you 3 mana for a 0 mana artifact, one of the most powerful cards ever printed, has a similar win rate to Comet Stellar Pup in this Vintage Cube format. To compare Comet to a card more similar than it, Jace the Mind Sculptor, commonly considered one of the strongest planeswalkers of all time for a very, very long time, is significantly worse than Comet. This 4-mana blue planeswalker absolutely terrorized Standard and ended up getting banned when it came out, and it is significantly weaker than Comet in almost every single way. But for those unfamiliar with Vintage Cube and with Comet in general, you may be wondering why. Why is Comet so strong? After all, his 0 ability makes you roll a 6-sided die. Isn't randomness generally something we're trying to avoid in the game, always playing the most consistent cards with the most consistent outcomes? Why is Comet so good when you have an outcome that's completely random every time you use the card? This is where we get to reading Comet's abilities and understanding why he is so powerful. First off, 5 loyalty starting on a Planeswalker is extremely high, making Comet very difficult to deal with when played down onto the board on turn 4 or earlier. When you would roll a 1 or 2 on a dice, the lower results, you get a +1 ability that is stronger than Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, another powerful planeswalker which is present in the Vintage Cube. In general, getting 2 1/1s is very comparable to getting a 2/2 Knight Ally token that Gideon gives you. However, these also come with haste and also increases Comet's loyalty by 1, making it much stronger than using Gideon's 0 ability. On the other hand, if you roll a 4 or 5, you end up with a better downtick than Chandra. You only lose 2 loyalty and do 5 damage to target creature or player, similar to Chandra Torch Defiance, which downticks for 3 to deal 4 damage to only creatures. These two planeswalkers showcase that rolling a 1, 2, 4, or 5 on Comet gives you a significantly above rate planeswalker in comparison to other cards you could put into your deck in Vintage Cube. And the outcome that is not present here, if you roll a 3, you end up getting a card with a mana value of 2 less from your graveyard to your hand, which can be even stronger than any of the other abilities present on Comet, depending on your situation. Vintage Cube is absolutely jam-packed full of powerful 1 and 2 mana cards like Swords to Plowshares or Black Lotus, as we saw earlier, which are really good to get back. And at the absolute worst, you can usually get back a land from your graveyard that you put there via a fetch land or some other effect. And I haven't even mentioned the best part of Comet, which is when you roll a 6. When you roll a 6, not only does Comet go up to 6 loyalty, but you also get the ability to activate its ability 2 more times, basically making your Planeswalker double trigger on the turn you played it down. All of this goes to show that when you play Comet down onto the board, you are in general getting a Planeswalker effect that is stronger than the other Planeswalkers you could play in your deck by default. Not to mention that if you roll a 6, you almost instantly win the game because you are effectively getting 2 Planeswalkers for the price of 1, and you're getting a doubled up effect that can continue to double if you roll additional 6s. An absolutely overpowered and broken card. This may raise the question, however, why is he legal? Comet is from a joke set, like I said earlier, Infinity, which is a set that wasn't really supposed to be seeing play in competitive formats such as Vintage Cube on Magic Arena. Generally, cards that are from joke sets meant to do something funny are ending up getting banned and are usually pre-banned in formats like this. Cards that are broken or have extremely strange mechanics are something that Magic players are generally against and are something that doesn't really have a great place in really high power level competitive formats. Blacker Lotus here is a great example of a more powerful card than Black Lotus, but it forces you to rip the card up into pieces and remove it from the game when you do use the card. This card was printed in silver border, as obviously this isn't something that most players would want to end up playing with in their competitive games. This was generally the trend with all of these unsets, Unfinity, Unglued, etc. They were all printed in silver border so that way they would not conflict with Magic's major design goals in their main sets. A card like Adorable Kitten is a card that is generally could see play in a format like Standard in Magic the Gathering, with its interesting host mechanic being not that different than other cards that have C print. However, the fact that it is in silver border means you are generally not going to be playing with this card anywhere outside of the kitchen table. Now, the reason they did this is because it usually doesn't matter. For cards like Comet are generally the exception in terms of the power level. The card that really made a big splash from being printed in black border ended up only really being Name Sticker Goblin. Name Sticker Goblin here is showing you the MTG Online version because it was printed with a sticker mechanic which had you have to get stickers from outside the game on different sticker cards, and it made it really, really confusing to play with the card, not only in paper, but also how to translate it into a meaningful way online. This does, however, show the danger of printing cards into black border that don't belong there. If a card has a really weird or wacky effect, it can cause a lot of problems if it is trying to be played in a serious game, in a serious format such as Legacy or a Vintage Cube or something along those lines. However, as I stated earlier, this is oftentimes the exception, not the rule, meaning that these cards like Namesticker and Comet are generally the only cards that you're going to see in black border from these Infinity sets that are going to see any form of play. Another reason you can look at it, though, is that Magic is ever changing. Magic is constantly changing and adapting, and making these silver border cards into black border cards may have just been something that was inevitable with the process of the game. We are currently living in a format where Commander is the most dominant form of Magic, and that probably isn't going to be changing anytime soon. This allows for 1v1 formats to have powerful cards like Minsk and Boo Timeless Hero see print in a way that is very functional for Commander, as Minsk and Boo can be your commander and is planned to be seen play in that format, but can also have an impact on cards like in Vintage Cube, like with Comet or Minsk and Boo being extremely powerful Planeswalkers in that format. We are also entering into a more collector-focused era of the game Magic the Gathering, meaning that the cards will end up looking a lot different than they may have looked in the early years of Magic's gameplay. For example, our boy Comet here also has an alternative artwork that you can get when opening packs with Comet in it, meaning that you can get alternate art and different versions for collectors that may want to collect a lot of Comets. These different phases of the game have always been a thing. Even since the early days where spells were the strongest thing you can do, they had a slow transition away to that into creatures, and then into commander, and then into different collector eras of the game. This adaptation and changing of the way the game functions is absolutely mandatory, in my opinion, if you want to keep a game going on for more than a couple years. Whilst players may bemoan the fact that Avatar is currently being printed into standard and that it's something that they're being forced to play with that isn't with their ideal version of Magic, the fact is that at all costs, Magic must keep adapting to new games, new elements, and what is currently going on in the world at large. And this is why, in my opinion, Vintage Cube is the best way to play Magic the Gathering, and it really shows the beauty of the game of Magic the Gathering as a whole. You can really think of it similar to a greatest hits album from your favorite band, showcasing all of the best parts of Magic the Gathering highlighted to the highest power level it can be. There's just no other format where you're allowed to play with cards like Ancestral Recall and Black Lotus and the Moxen in a meaningful way as you can in Vintage Cube, in a way that impacts the game and feels as powerful as it probably felt way back at the very beginning of the game of Magic the Gathering as a whole. Vintage Cube is a format that has a place for every type of card. Super powerful draw cards from the early days of the year. Super powerful mana rocks that you wouldn't even dream of printing into the modern game are cards that you can play with frequently when you're playing in the Vintage Cube. Broken design mistakes made in the early years or the later years or any step in between end up seeing play in this format just because of the extremely high power level, letting you play with the absolute best cards from every single era present in Magic. And getting to see cards from every different era of Magic clash together in powerful ways with different interactions really goes to show the legacy that not only Magic has, but the game rules have as a whole. This can even extend to Universes Beyond cards. Having Universes Beyond present in Magic the Gathering cubes is something that can be done very easily and relatively fleshes in well with the Magic as a whole, because Vintage Cube isn't meant to be showing a world or depicting a way Magic is, it is just depicting Magic as a whole. And this is why I love Vintage Cube so much, because no matter how many broken cards they print or new aspects that they place into the game, the core game as a whole still functions in Vintage Cube. And this is really the power that I see from different cubes that are present in Magic, and in general, all the other formats that are present in Magic as well. Vintage Cube lets you play the game in all sorts of forms, and other formats give you more concentrated doses of a different game in different ways that you want to play it. An older card like Jace the Mind Sculptor gets a chance to walk through Magic's faded halls in many different forms, first being a broken card in Standard, then being banned in Modern, and then unbanned, and now being able to sit on the old council of cards that is still powerful enough to be playable in Vintage Cube. Having different formats lets you play Magic from this to any way in between. From having the most powerful standard card of all time, playing in one of the strongest standard formats ever printed, to playing with weak draft when you're playing a draft that you may only see once in a blue moon, but still might have meaning to you as you like playing with lower power level cards. Comet Stellar Pup fits right into this mold, being a card that most people probably don't know about and most people probably don't analyze as being super powerful. However, when seen in Vintage Cube, shows its power all unto itself. Even formats with heavier restrictions such as Pauper, which only allows you to play common cards, makes cards like Gurmag Angler, which you may look at as just a vanilla 5/5 playable probably in draft and nowhere else, into a all-star staple that's seen play in the format for many years. Having different formats that are not only playable on a competitive level, but also on a casual level gives home to so many different sorts of players, making it really, really easy to recommend Magic to almost anyone who has ever played any game at all. Do you love wacky start of game mechanics? Put in a Solver's Realm into your cube. You can play with this card, which starts in your command zone at the beginning of the game. Do you prefer a more serious, down-to-earth approach to playing the game? You can play a more normal format like Standard, where all the cards are printed into Standard very consistently. The thing that ties it all together is even though all of these games are so different, only playing with commons, playing with only one of each card in a powerful cube, playing a limited format where you have a limited supply of the different cards that you can put into your deck, the core game of Magic the Gathering still persists in every single one. And this is what I would say to any aspiring designer that wants to make a game to last as long as a game like Magic has, is that you absolutely must keep your rules as simple as possible, and you also must keep all of those rules as consistent as possible across format to format. The number of benefits you get from having different ways to play the game, but a similar set of rules so that way everyone can understand it, has an immense number of benefits that gives you not only the diversity for different players, but also an ability to keep a large player base engaged as a whole. This is how you can help give meaning to cards in your game, even without a lot of flashy effects on them, giving you not only more design space, but more meaning. A card like Windrake is only a 3-mana 2/2. However, from being printed and powerful and limited so many different times, the card gains a meaning all onto its own, despite never seeing play in any form of constructed format. This not only lets you build around cards which have less text on them, but it also gives you a lot of room to grow and add text when that is necessary. Say you're making a multicolor set on Ravnica, you can do a lot of work adding extra mechanics like Vigilance or Disguise when you print a card that is multicolor into that set, giving you tons of room to breathe and make new designs even many, many decades into the future. This leaving yourself room to grow not only helps in terms of the card designers being able to make new interesting things, but also gives your players room to grow into other formats, discovering more things they may like to do in your game that they simply had never discovered after playing it for only a few years. This room to innovate and share new mechanics, new gameplay elements, new ways to play the game is something that keeps your game healthy and alive long into the years after you may run out of ability to continue taking care of it on your own as a game developer. This can help you take additional leaps as a game designer, printing cards with double-faced sides, or printing cards that you can only read on the side and place on your opponent's side of the board, are things that may have been completely outlandish in the early years of Magic the Gathering, but because they had so much time and room to innovate, they can print new and exciting effects and try many different things, striking on what's right and keeping that around for many years into the future of Magic's design. And this is something I really wish to see more of in the game industry as a whole. When you're building a card game, I want people to build for a long lifespan. By designing your game in a way that even if you have disasters, the game will continue on in a meaningful way. Even if you print cards that are way too powerful or misdesigned or are just a bad idea in general, if you make your game in a way where you can continue to play it even with things going wrong, it'll help you massively in the long run maintain not only players, but also funding from people. Magic has had its fair share of problems, with Prophetic Memory being banned in Standard recently, with Nadu Winged Wisdom coming out and being banned in every format that it was seemingly conceived of being able to be played in, and also cards like Lutri, which have the companion mechanic, which had to be completely errated and reworded altogether. But even though these cards are way too powerful and broke the game and are required to be banned, the core game of Magic still exists even after these cards were forced to be removed from it. They still obey by the rules of Magic the Gathering, and thus can be cards that are be put into a different version of the game, such as Vintage Cube. This is what allows Magic to take these massive leaps in card design, making massive mistakes and massive upsets that may make a lot of players unhappy, but ultimately, in the end of the day, you'll still end up playing Magic because these cards don't fully ruin the game for you. They may ruin an aspect of Modern or Standard or one format for you, but in general, there will be a different format that does not suffer under the hand of these powerful cards. This gives people who play Magic a massive amount of freedom that almost no other card game provides to them. The ability to jump ship from different version of Magic to version of Magic means that if a card that is printed that is not to your liking is currently dominating a format, you can wait for the card to get banned while playing something else. If it may not be your cup of tea, you can switch from format to format as your different tastes evolve over your time playing Magic the Gathering. And this is why I think a card like Comet Stellar Pup still deserves to exist in Magic, even with all the mistakes that were going into making its design. The fact that it is way more powerful than Black Lotus or Jason the Mind Sculptor is definitely something that wasn't on the mind of the designers when they were making this cute space dog. However, the fact that it works in Magic the Gathering really is a testament to the power of Magic's design, being able to make even the most broken card a random dog that wasn't planned on being played in Vintage Cube in the first place at all, and having the game still be fun and come out okay on the other side is an absolute masterclass in the design of Magic the Gathering. And that's my video. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. It's a little bit different than what I usually make, just talking about one card. However, I hope you liked it. Let me know your thoughts about Comet down in the comments. I'm interested to see what you think about the design of not only Magic, but the powerful cards present in Magic, like Comet or the companion cards, etc. Thanks for watching the video. I'll hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.